I wasn't supposed to be at the lake house that weekend. It was my husband's idea. Said I needed a break. Said I'd been doing too much, thinking too much, and smiling too little. So he offered to stay behind in the city to handle work, and I packed a bag and drove up to the quiet we used to call our escape. It wasn't the first time I'd been there alone, but it was the first time he was there with me. My stepson, Brandon. He'd just moved back from college, staying with us for a few weeks before figuring things out. I didn't know him that well, honestly. We weren't close. Polite, yes. Civil, sure. But never close. But that weekend, that quiet little getaway, changed everything. And I didn't see it coming. The first day was quiet, peaceful. The air smelled like wet pine and cedarwood. I made tea while he played soft music from his room upstairs. Something acoustic, mellow, the kind of music that makes you feel like the world has slowed down just for a while. We barely spoke that day. Just a few, how was your sleep, and do you want eggs kind of conversations. But it wasn't awkward. It was easy, like two strangers who had nothing to prove to each other. But the next day, something shifted. It started with breakfast. I had burned the toast and laughed about it. He laughed too, not a fake laugh, not the kind you give someone out of courtesy. It was full, real, and warm. You're not as serious as I thought you were, he said, grinning. I smiled. You're not as quiet as you pretend to be. We shared coffee on the porch that morning, talked about books, music, even politics. And later that evening, we made dinner together. It was silly, really. Two grown adults fumbling over a recipe we didn't fully read. He chopped onions wrong. I oversalted the pasta. We ended up laughing so hard, I almost dropped the pot. And then, after the dishes were washed and the wine was poured, we sat on the couch and watched some old show he used to love. It felt familiar, comfortable, but still innocent. Just a woman and her stepson, bonding, right? I don't know when it started, exactly. That other feeling. Maybe it was the way his eyes lingered on me when I laughed too loud. Or the way I noticed the curve of his jaw when the firelight hit it just right. It was tiny things. Subtle. Quiet. Like how he started sitting a little closer on the couch. Or how he'd brush my hand when handing me something. Or how he listened, not just nodded, but really listened, when I talked. I told myself I was imagining things. I had to be. He was just being sweet, kind, attentive. But there was a moment, one I still remember. We were sitting on the back deck. The sky was that perfect kind of blue-gray before a storm. And out of nowhere, he looked at me and said, "You deserve more joy than you let yourself feel." I looked away, because I felt something I didn't want to feel. Something that scared me. The rain started later that night. Soft at first. Then stronger. The lights flickered just after 9 p.m. and eventually went out completely. So I lit some candles and grabbed the old wool blanket from the back of the couch. He came downstairs as I was lighting the last one. "Power's out," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "Looks like it's just us and the storm." We laughed, but it felt heavier than laughter. We ended up sitting together on the couch, watching the candle flames dance in the silence. The only sound was thunder rolling in the distance and the soft patter of rain on the windows. He pulled part of the blanket over his lap and nudged me closer. "You'll catch a cold," he said. So I moved. Not too close, but not far enough. We didn't speak for a while. I could feel the heat from his body, the tension in the air thick as syrup. And then I heard it. Later, when I went upstairs to grab my phone charger, I passed his room. And I heard moaning. Soft, stifled, and unmistakable. I froze. Not because of what I heard, but because a small part of me wondered. If it was because of me, I avoided him the next morning. Didn't go down for breakfast. Pretended to be on a work call that didn't exist. I couldn't look him in the eye, not because I was angry, but because I was confused, ashamed. Ashamed for what I thought, ashamed for what I felt. When he finally knocked on my door around noon, I opened it just a crack. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I lied. He stood there for a second. "Did I do something?" I shook my head, but I couldn't say anything more. That night, the storm came back. Louder, more violent. The lights were still out, and I sat curled up with a glass of wine, candles casting flickering shadows across the walls. He came downstairs again. But this time, he didn't sit far. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. I nodded, and he took a breath like he was about to walk off a cliff. "I don't know how to say this without sounding crazy, but I think about you. Too much." My stomach dropped. He went on. "It's not just attraction. It's how you see people, how you carry yourself. I know it's wrong. I know that. But I can't pretend I haven't felt something these past few days." I couldn't speak. I wanted to cry. Not because I was angry, but because I understood. Because I had felt it too. And that terrified me. I left early the next morning, before the sun rose. I didn't say goodbye. I couldn't. I left a note on the counter. "Brandon, you're not alone in what you felt. But we both know this can't happen. Some things aren't meant to become more." I sat in the car for 10 minutes before driving off. Rain on the windshield. A pain in my chest I didn't know how to name. That night, I was back in my apartment. City lights humming through the windows. My phone buzzed. It was a text. From him. "You weren't the only one who heard something in that silence." I didn't reply, but I cried because in that one message, I knew the truth. And it would stay between us. Forever. Some moments, they're not meant to be lived out loud. Just remembered in quiet corners of the heart. I didn't open that door to find what I did. But maybe, in a way, it opened something in me. Something I'll never fully understand. Was I wrong for feeling what I felt? Or was it just human? I'll leave that for you to decide. Tell me in the comments. And if you've ever felt something you couldn't explain, you're not alone. Subscribe to Tales of Lust for more stories that explore the blurred lines of desire, memory, and restraint. Until next time.